there, and welcome everyone to yet another episode of the Quad Damage Podcast, where we talk about everything from immersive sims to boomer shooters. And today we're joined by a man who's accustomed to both. But before I introduce you to him, I'm Midnight Medium, and I'm joined by Deadforge and Robert Yapp. And also our guest host, Yak Show. Thanks again for joining us, my good sir, after a long time away.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be back.
Welcome aboard.
But of course, our little gathering would be nothing without a guest of honor. And I give you the man who's very accustomed to things immersive simming and booming shooting, the CEO of New Blood Interactive, Dave Oshry.
Me.
Yeah.
What up?
Okay, thanks for joining us, Dave.
Pleasure.
All right, and without further ado, Deadforge, you know what to do.
Oh yeah. You ready?
So ready.
Let's
Get
get
booming.
That is our cringe as fuck opening. That is.
Hey, it's always
So, Dave, I'm sure you go without, don't need any introduction, but just for anyone who might not be fully aware of the reach you have and kind of the history that you've had with the industry, tell us a little bit about how you got started with everything and kind of where you came from and how you got to New Blood.
Yeah, I was born in Harlem, New York in 1984, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I've been in the industry, I guess we're going on 15, 16 years. I started, so I used to, back in like 07, 08, I was selling used cars by day, and by night I was playing World of Warcraft about 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, as many people did back in 2007.
Shit.
So that was my second job, and there was a guy I met on there. He's a warrior. His name was Rip10, and he had a gaming blog. And I said, hey man, can I write for your gaming blog? I'd love to like review and preview games and stuff. And he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Fast forward a little bit, we made the blog get pretty popular. I got pretty popular as a games blogger, dude. And then one day I was covering this game. I've told this story so many times. These dudes out of Denmark were trying to remake Duke Nukem 3D in Unreal Engine. It was called Duke Nukem Reloaded. There was this tall, handsome man named Frederick. And he was like, Dave, I really like what we're trying to do, the Duke Nukems, and you really got us a lot of publicity and stuff. If you ever finish the blogging and the writing and the whatnot, maybe you can come help us do the marketing for the Duke Nukem. And I was like, well, shit, yeah, cool. I think every game blogger's dream is, eventually to make the jump from, media over to, there used to be a game called, I forget what it was called. It wasn't Game Dev Simulator or something. And like when you beat it was like Game Blog Simulator. And when you beat the game, you become a community manager at like a gaming company. So around 2010, 2011, I made the jump over and I became the marketing dude for Interceptor Entertainment. Now Slipgate, 3D Realms, but it was a long time since they were called Interceptor.
Yeah.
And we, the plan was to do Duke Reloaded. And then Gearbox was like, you can't fucking make a Duke Nukem game, you stupid bastards. And we were like, sorry, Randy. And so we got on the phone with Terry from Apogee, the new Apogee. Terry Nagy's the guy, guy from the old Apogee. One of the office dudes from the original Apogee, who's good buddies with Scott Miller. Who you should have on this podcast, by the way. I don't know if you had Scott on yet, but Scott's always got shit to say. You can't.
He's on the list to reach out to.
You can't stop him. You can't stop podcast for 5 hours.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's got stuff to say about 3D Realms. He always does.
There's always some tea.
He always does, yeah.
So Fred got me in touch with Terry from Apogee, and because we were like, well, we can't make a Duke Nukem game. What are we gonna do? And they, Apogee did have the rights to do they had the rights to do a non-first person shooter. And this is kind of like post Duke Forever, like 2011. My timeline, I've told this story so many times, it's starting to get fuzzy. So this is kind of like post Duke Forever. Duke Nukem's kind of not, the IP anybody wants to touch right now. But Apogee apparently did have the rights to do one more Duke Nukem game, like as long as it's not a first-person shooter, and it had to be called Mass Destruction. For some reason, there was like a loophole in the paperwork that they had from like
Specifically that
30
keyword.
like got signed some deal on a napkin somewhere, and it was like carved out that like Apogee had the rights to do one more Duke Nukem game. They ended up losing those rights after Gearbox sued them again or whatever. But at the time, they were like, "Yeah, we want to do this another Duke Nukem game. Are you interested in doing that with us, Dave? About doing marketing and helping invest and stuff. 'Cause I had some money too." And I was like, "Absolutely fucking not. I want nothing to do with Duke." Which is not true. I ended up doing. We did Duke Nukem 2 re-release. We did. I got Duke Manhattan Project release on Steam, which that was my most proudest accomplishment back then.
Yeah.
And then Gearbox subsequently pulled it off Steam a few years later, but I still got it in my library. We did the Apogee platformer pack. But I was about to get off this phone call and say like, sorry guys, I don't think I can do this with y'all anymore. I'll go back to selling used cars or whatever. We were literally about to hang up the phone. And I go to Terry. I was like, hey, you guys still have like the rights to do do you guys still have the rights to Rise of the Triad? Does anybody remember Rise of the Triad? And Terry was like, yeah, we got the Rise of the Triad. We were trying to do a reboot with some fellers down here. My Terry and Fred impressions are getting worse year on year. Terry's a lot more like Hank
They'll
Hill.
be watching this thinking, what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah, so Terry's literally like Hank Hill from Texas. Just a tall man, but instead of propane, he sells solar panels. So it's very, but like if you picture Terry from Apogee, it's literally like, dang it, Frederick, I wanted the split missile. God dang it. So that's Terry. So he was like, yeah, we can do Rise of the Triad. We were trying to do that with some fellas down here, and he's not that fucking southern. Some guys down here, but it wasn't really getting going. And I go to Fred. I was like, dude, I would love to do. Fred was on the call too. I was like, dude, I'd love to do a rot something. And Fred was like, and Fred who just says yes to anything to try to get it. He was like, yeah, we could do rot. We could do that for like no money. It ended up being like all the money. But he was enthusiastic, and we're like, shit, let's go. And that's how Rise of the Triad reboot, 2013 got started. It was originally supposed to be Rise of the Triad 2012, but it ended up getting pushed like almost a year. It still came out pretty fucking janky. It was the first game we ever worked on. It was built, everybody on the team was basically a modder. So it was built like basically a big Unreal mod. There was like no static meshes. Everything was like, every piece was a draw. Oh my God, it runs like ass.
Gosh.
But like, we didn't know what we were doing. But we did it. We made a game. We rebooted Rise of the Triad. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. What I wanted to do was like a remaster, what we ended up doing like 10 years later with Night Dive. But Fred was like, no, it has to be state of the art, cutting edge, Unreal Engine. But dude, he was putting, like, he would go in, we'd like finish a level, and then Fred would go in and like add like lens flare and dirt and all this shit to make it look like, just, he would Michael Bay the shit out of the levels. It was so funny. We'd be like, stop. He'd like, no, this is what they do now. It's like, I was like, God damn it, Fred. But it was whatever. I think Civi said it the best. It was like, it's a janky piece of shit, but its heart's in the right place, right?
Beautiful.
That was Rise of the Triad 2013. And then, hey, we made a video game. I marketed a video, and it sold pretty well. Because back then, Steam, there was no green light. Steam didn't have user reviews or anything. We were in the top 10. I think it was like number 3 at the time. There was 500 games on Steam when Rise of the Triad. That was still when you had to know somebody at Valve to get a game on Steam. It wasn't just like pay $100 to put anything on Steam. Like Terry and Dan from Apogee, may he rest in peace, got me in touch with Valve. And Valve, at GDC one year, because you used to literally have to pitch your game to Valve to get on Steam and be like, please, Papa Valve, please put my game on your store and give me free money. Because back then, like, any game that got on Steam was basically, you made money because there was so few games on Steam. It's not like now where you have to scratch and claw for, to get anybody to notice you. And I met with them at GDC 2012, and I've told this story a bunch too, where I was like, hey, so and they were just coming out with Greenlight. That was like their new initiative. Hey, you want to put a game on Steam? We've got this new thing where communities can vote for your game. I kind of miss Greenlight, because now Steam is just like anything's on there. At least back then, you used to have to fucking try. Now anybody with $100 could put any fucking hentai shovelware on there if they want.
Yeah.
I dropped the shovelware. Hentai. And so like I met with the Valve dude, and I was like, hey, we want to do Rise of the Triad. And he was like, "Sweet, put it on Greenlight." And I was like, "No, it wasn't the main game. It was so like Rise of the Triad 2013 was good to go." And I was like, "Hey, for a pre-order bonus, we want to include the original DOS, Rise of the Triad, Rot 95." And he was like, "Cool, put it on Greenlight." And I was like, "I'm not putting fucking Rise of the Triad 2095. I'm not putting Rot. I'm not putting. It's a classic. Why would I put it? You want me to put fucking Commander Keen on Greenlight too?" And he's like, "Well, like just putting old game because back then, the old games like that were on GOG, and like Steam didn't have stuff like that. And if it wasn't like an attractive package to them, they weren't interested." I was to me as a marketing guy, I was like, "We'll sell the reboot." And then as a pre-order bonus to get everyone to pre-order, we'll be like, "Hey, pre-order now and get the classic game for free." That was my idea. And Val was like, "No, that's not like you could put it on Greenlight." And I was like heated. I walked out of the room for a few minutes. And I was like, "All right," I was thinking. I go to the Apogee guys, and they were like, "What did they say?" They were like, "No." I was like, "What?" So I walked in there and I met with them, and I was like, they were like, "Well, that's not a thing." And I was like, "Well, what about like?" And I brought up, I think the Sega had a classics collection at the time where they had like a bunch of Sega games wrapped in a thing, and you go and
I bought it.
Like a retro, yeah, something like that. And I was like, and they were like, "You've got those classic games?" He's like, "Well, yeah, well, that's like a nice, attractive package for us, something we can sell. It's not just one game." And I started bullshitting. I was like, "Well, what if we could put a bunch of Apogee games in a thing and do something like that as a pre-order bonus? Would that be cool?" And he was like, "Yeah, that would be good." And I go, "Cool, yeah, we could do that. We could do a bunch of Apogee. Could we do like an Apogee throwback pack?" I came up with the name on the spot.
That
and
was
Val
it.
was like, "Yeah, do that. That'll be a good one." So I was like, "Sick, cool, done." And then I go to Terry. I'm like, "What other games do we have the rights for?" And he was like, He was like, "We got Blake Stone." I was like, "Done, cool,
Win it.
And that's
Hell yeah.
And that's how the Apogee throwback pack came about. So the Apogee, that became the pre-order bonus for Rot. So it was Apogee. So it was Rot 95 and Blake Stone 1 and 2. We put a little launcher around it that let you do, screen resolution and whatnot. So it's still on Steam, the Apogee throwback pack. And that was the pre-order bonus. And that was the first thing we ever put on Steam, along with the Duke 2 for iOS, the Duke Nukem platformer pack. We put on at the same time. It was Duke 1, Duke 2, and Duke Manhattan Project. May they rest in peace on Steam. And then, Rise of the Triad. That was 2013. And after that was all, that was the first stuff I ever did, releasing games, and Interceptor ever did. And Apogee, Apogee's come back. Apogee is now that's like the second iteration of Apogee. They're now on the third one. That was like, Scott's now on his third Apogee. With Apogee with Turbo Overkill and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So then after that, after Rise of the Triad, we all hated each other. Nobody wanted to work together again. Fred actually offered me, because they were finally, now that they had some clout, they were going to do that Duke Nukem game that they had the rights to do one thing to with Apogee, and that was when the Gearbox thing happened and the whole lawsuits and blah blah blah. And I remember Fred, he's like, "Hey, do you want to do the same thing again? Do you want to be the marketing guy for Duke Nukem Mass Destruction?" And I was like, "I will do it under two conditions." I was like, "I want to be paid up front, and I want to help write it. I wanted to help write the Duke game, because I thought I would write some really funny, cool, awesome stuff for Duke." And he was like, "No," and I was like, "All right, so it was fun working with you, but I'm not involved." And I didn't really want to work on the Duke thing anyway. I had a feeling things weren't going to work out because the rights were always kind of iffy. It was a very handshake napkin type agreement. They had to do one more Duke game, and as you know, it ended up not working out. They had to change. That's when they made the pivot and turned it into Bombshell, and that game did not do great. Even though I think
I heard it's crap. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a perfectly fine game. I beat that game. I was like, it was fine. It
I
wasn't.
beat it on 360.
It came out on 360?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I didn't think it barely ran on 360.
I didn't even know Shelley Harrison existed until Ion Fury, and then I found out about the history of Duke Nukem and Bombshell after that.
She was actually, we could just pretend she didn't, and that was, so they went off and did that, and me and a couple of buddies I worked on Triad with and friends from home, we started New Blood, because we wanted to go in a totally different direction. We were burnt out on working on Unreal Engine style first person shooters, and VR was getting really hot at the time. That was when Carmack had come out at QuakeCon with the Doom 3 BFG with the the duct tape, first iteration of the Oculus with Palmer Luckey and stuff, and we were like, this is it, this is the future, let's make a fucking VR game. And we were like, we wanted to make VR Punch Out, basically. We wanted Punch Out, Super Punch Out Wii, that kind of vibes. And we were working on a game called Haymaker. And you can see it briefly in our 10-year video if you watch the 10 years of New Blood trailer. And we wanted to do that. We were getting pretty far. We were talking. We met with Oculus at Steam Dev Days and Oculus Connect, and they were like, this is pretty good. Like Palmer and Nate and all them saw it, and they were like, this is pretty good. You guys want to be at our booth at GDC with Eve Valkyrie. I don't know if you remember the first big Oculus game was Eve Online pilot game called Eve Valkyrie. Remember Eve Online? I played Eve for 2 years. Got a very long and storied MMO history.
I haven't been brave enough to play Eve.
Oh, do you like spreadsheets? Yeah, do you like the people that play Eve, or the guy who was the head of my corp was a Harvard professor who moved to Japan to teach Japanese. It was the kind of people that play that game are people like that just love
the only guy that I knew that played it in school. He invented code. He didn't write code. He invented something new. It's just wow. All right.
It's one of those games.
Yeah.
But then so we were getting pretty close with that, but then our programmer quit, and that kind of just fell apart. So it never really materialized. So that just kind of lives as a 10-second tech demo that you can see in our video. But that was how New Blood got started. And then next thing we were kind of doing a little publishing thing, and then guys like Samansky joined. Next thing we're a developer. Fast forward 10 years, and here we are. I don't know if I need to tell you guys the rest, but that's how it got started, and then we were a bunch of cast-offs from working on other games, and we had all this New Blood, and that's how the quiet.
My dog was literally shouting out. My partner's just had to bring him in because he was just here shouting.
Yeah, so that's how New Blood got started, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Well, we all know the story about how Dusk came out, of course, and that I believe you thought that it was a failure because it wasn't an instant success, but then the sales kept coming in repeatedly, and suddenly everyone was talking about.
Man. I was ready to go broke again. I went broke doing Triad. I spent all my money on that. When it was coming out at QuakeCon, I remember looking at my bank account, being well, this game's either gonna sell or I'm moving back in with my mama. Then 5 years later, when Dusk was coming out, I was well, this will either sell or I'm moving back in with my mama. But now that's not really an issue. So yeah. To be fair, my mom would love if I moved into her basement. Nothing would make my mother happier.
That is 100% a mom thing.
Back home with 100%. My mom at the right old age of 40. Well, I mean, someone's got to take care of her.
Yeah, I'm 45 this year. My mother still drops hints that she wants me to move back to their hometown because that's where her and all my sisters are. I'm like, no, nice. I outgrew that town 30 years ago, but it's very much a mom thing. But
it's good that Dusk was so popular. We wouldn't have all the cool and interesting games that you guys published today.
Obviously, was the catalyst for the boom shoots. I think we all consider Rise of the Triad 2013 the first modern boomer shooter, because then we had the Wolf reboots and the Doom reboots, and then you finally got it got the Strafe, which is in there as well, even though that was a roguelike that didn't really scratch the itch that people were looking for.
We had Shadow Warrior back in 2014.
The Shadow Warrior. So that's funny. So Rise of the Triad 2013 and Shadow Warrior with Devolver basically got started at the same time. And I think we also released with within a month of each other. And we did a crossover. I don't know if you remember. We put Lo Wang in Rot 2013 as a multiplayer character with hair before he shaves his head.
I did not know that. No, I did not know.
He's in there. There's a trailer. Go look up. I think it's Rot version 1.4 trailer. It's a terrible fucking trailer. But I think I cut that together with Windows Movie Maker. It was Rot 1.3 or 1.4. We added Lo Wang.
Yeah.
You could feel games around the era, though, almost shifting towards the old school, because even Flying Wild Hog, they were putting out for Shadow Warrior, but they'd already done Hard Reset by then. Yeah, so I think Doom 2016 was the catalyst.
The closest thing we got to that, but before the closest thing we had to anything was Bulletstorm. And Bulletstorm, I mean, you play that today, like it had a cool combo system, but it was still very unreal streaming levels. It felt like Gears of War first person shooter, basically carried 2 weapons. We still hadn't gotten back to carry 8 weapons at a time and run really fast and move around and interconnected levels with like keys and doors. Like we hadn't circled back around to that yet. And then, come 2016, 2017, 2018, we were fully back. Dusk was really, people, after Dusk did well, people were like, oh shit, people want this, and the rest is,
When was
Bulletstorm was definitely the closest to that old school at that time, because like you did have a weapon wheel and stuff like that, but it was very,
be honest, I couldn't
rash,
get into
like
Bulletstorm.
Duke Nukem and stuff like that. So it was.
I tried my best.
What, to get into Bulletstorm?
It was at the time. It was it was fun and funny, but if you try playing it now, it's like, man, 2012 was like really some dark ages for shooters. Like that, like the 360 era, between that, before Steam popped off, when PC gaming, I don't know if you kids watching this remember Games for Windows Live and that whole dark time for, there was before like before Steam and PC gaming came back, man, it was a dark time for shooters, dude. But we made it back out of the trenches.
Yeah. So speaking of Dusk then, so you said that game released. When was the moment then that you thought something has started here? Because it wasn't just Dusk, it was 1-2 combo of Dusk and a medieval, in my opinion. That people were like, there's a new genre that's just appeared on the scene, and you were the catalyst for it.
And don't forget Ion Fury, not ours, but
I was actually
Ion
going to say,
was it 2019?
Civi,
and
before Civi got popular, Project Warlock, of course. If you go back, Civi did a video called, Defenders of the Faith.
Yes.
And it was like, before Civi was super popular, it was like one of the first popular videos he did, where it was like Dusk, Medieval, Ion Fury. It's like, hey, these kind of games are back. And that was like kind of the first like trilogy of like boomer shooters. You had a new game built on the build engine. You had a game that looked games back then with Dusk, and then you had a game like a Medieval, which kind of mixed the old and the new with Unreal Engine graphics and old style Hex and Heretic sensibilities. It was, we definitely knew something was happening, but like I was just so kind of foot on the pedal, because like even though our games had done well, it like wasn't well enough, because like boomer shooters are more popular than they are successful. Like it's a niche genre within a niche. Like I'm still trying to get Dusk on like Xbox and stuff, and they're like, what is this, Minecraft with guns? I was like, no, it's a very popular
that's
it's actually
holy shit.
Like, surely you've heard of
this
Dusk,
delay is
right?
fucking insane.
You're like, you mean the Dusk Blood from Software?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think I asked you a few years ago about Dusk being on Xbox because I wanted to play it there, but you've only been able to put it on Switch so far. Because I've had Dusk since early access launch or whatever. I had a shitty HP laptop that I couldn't even play the game on hardly, so it would play like super choppy, and I was still playing each episode that came out, trying to support you guys, and I was like, I can't even play it. I never even got to really play it properly until I got a
no, we actually, I've been talking to the Game Pass team. I'm like, listen, I want to put the trilogy on Game Pass. Dusk has been like ready to go on, we're on the back end of stuff with like ID at Xbox. Medieval, and then we want to do Ultra Kill. Ultra Kill is basically my carrot on a stick for everybody now. I'm like, you guys want Ultra Kill? You want Ultra Kill? You better give me some money for our older games. Oh, you want that Ultra Kill, don't you? Because Ultra Kill sold like millions of copies, and it's not finished yet. So like, I am trying to get. But the thing is, console sales, I mean, we're basically doing it for just because people want it. It's not like, I mean, we hate money, but like, they don't make, compared to, like, I can make in 1 week on Steam what I make in a year on Switch for like our game.
Really?
Console sales are like, I think people still don't realize that Steam is the biggest store by a wide margin. There's a reason that all like the culture war weirdos just hold up fucking Steam CCUs as like their thing now. Because like that's where the biggest players are. Obviously, like the big dick exclusives, like the God of Wars and stuff like that, are still going to be console heavy. Stuff like GTA is still going to be console heavy. But for the most part, that's why people like Sony and all that. Sony bought Nixes specifically to do PC ports of their games, because you can't. It's like it's like 60-70% of the storefront market now. It's
That big, eh?
behemoth. Yeah.
Jeez.
So like, doing consoles, like, it's for us, it has to be kind of like, there has to be a reason for it. Like when we did Dusk on Switch, like we wanted to do like the best Switch port we could do of a boomer shooter, because boomer shooters had come to Switch, but they were like 720, barely hitting 30 frames per second, not using gyro controls or anything. I was like, we could do better than that. You know, so if you go back and watch that Digital Foundry video where they said it was like the best Unity port ever, and John was like so into it, I'm like, we spent like 3 years on it, like, because we wanted to be locked at 60, use gyro, be like, the Switch version of Dusk is like the best version of the game. So like, we want everything we do to be like a point of pride. You know, we're New Blood, we're obsessed with like, you know, making everything as good as we can. So like, we wanted that to be as good as, and it had extra content. You know, it had the Mamma Mia Flesh Palace level. You know, we added Mario 64 Castle. Same way for the PS4 version, we added Silent Hill level. For the Xbox version, we've got a Blood Gulch map that's just been sitting around. You know, an endless map that, you know, looks like Halo.
Nice.
So like, we want to make everything we do, every version we do special. So like with consoles and stuff, like it, you know, we want to make it count, but at the same time, it's like I'm not like freaking out that our games aren't on console, because like they're not gonna sell a ton there anyway. It's just not where the market's at.
Console fans just don't want to hear that often. I mean, look, I used to be a console guy until I moved to PC, got my own PC, everything like it was a glorious day, right? But a lot of the guys, you know, a lot of the games you talk about, Yaksho, on when do they come on console? I'm like, my friends, I don't know. Like it's maybe
now
not.
with the Steam Deck and stuff, you don't even need one. You just plug your Steam Deck. I use the ROG Ally. I just plug that into my TV, and it's more, it's more powerful than like my Series S. Like I use my PS5, you know, plenty, and my Series. I love the Series S. I think that's a great little console, man. Like I use my, you know, because I play, you know, like stuff like, you know, anything that's like third person or racing games and stuff. I play, you know, like Need for Speed and shit like that, GTA. Like that's all PS5 for me. Like, you know, stuff like Yakuza. You know, I play all that on PS5. But you know, first person shooters, obviously, you know, PC. You know, most stuff PC, strategy games, PC. So especially for what we do, you know, our games, you know, work great with controller. But you know, Steam now, even, you know, with the, you know, the Steam Deck and the stuff they do with controller, it's like, it's become ubiquitous. And you've even seen Xbox, they're like, we're not, everything's an Xbox. Your toaster's a fucking Xbox. You know, Xbox is a platform, not a box anymore. And you could say, you know, I've been playing stuff on PC Game Pass, because like, why would I pay $70 for a game when I could, like, I played Adamfall on PC Game Pass. I played Avowed on PC Game Pass. Watching Indiana Jones on PC Game Pass. I saved like that's like $150-$200 I saved right there just by having Game Pass.
It's a pretty good value.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking to Xbox. I'm like, hey,
Dave, you can't own your games if you have Game Pass. Why don't you put all
these boomer shooters on PC Game Pass? You'll get all.
Here's the crazy part: it's about to be even better value now that you know, Nintendo's about to make digital games $80, physical games $90.
So that's crazy. Yeah, I saw everyone. That's why they didn't announce the prices during the direct. They were like, we're just gonna show off the fucking 480p game chat, and then, you know, people really, I mean, to be fair, like, obviously I'm getting one. Mario Kart looks great. I just really want to play Tears of the Kingdom at 4K 60. That's gonna be wow.
It does look great. Yeah,
anyone saw Nintendo,
everything about it looks great. And like an improvement minus the cost of games.
The mouse, and that was the thing. So like they confirmed the mouse thing, and I'm like, yo, we make first-person shooters. Nintendo has a mouse now. Dusk is on there, so like we want to update Dusk to be 120 frames per second, and use the mouse on Switch too. So I email our Nintendo guy, and I was like, well, let's go. They're not like dev kits and stuff for indies yet, unless you're like Undertale or whatever. You know, or Capcom. They're not like, everybody I've talked to is like, no, we're not getting dev kits yet. I was like,
Medium had a pretty cool question, but what do you think about actually now we're leaning into, you're not really going to own games so much, you're just kind of going to be renting them for a long time?
Yeah, with the digital stuff. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you don't own any of your games on Steam, right? You just have the you know, license, except the ones, most Steam games are DRM free. Like all our Steam games are DRM free, right? You can just download the files. It's the same, like you could put them on a USB. It's like a lot of games are like that. the Steamworks DRM is like barely a wrapper. Like it doesn't unless you have like actual DRM. A lot of the games on Steam are just DRM free. But yeah, digital licenses that can be revoked at any time. Like, yeah, that would be cool if that's what Game Pass should be like, where I'm paying a subscription service, and as long as the game's on the service, I can play it. And then eventually they go away. Like, hey, this game's not on here anymore. You can't play it anymore. I'm like, cool, that's fine. I don't pay full price. I didn't pay full price for it. But if I pay $80 for a thing, I should own the thing. I bought the thing. Give me the thing. And even physical games
now,
$80
for something that has single player and happens to run a server, and then in 6 months they shut it down, and then you can't play the game anymore.
Give me my thing.
It's not okay.
I was on the Bethesda store yesterday because I was looking for the NCR flag. My NCR flag's all ripped up because it's been hanging from my flagpole for a million years, and I keep my NCR flag flying out here in New Zealand. People are like, what the fuck is that? Because I lived in California for a long time, and I'm a dork. And I was like looking for it, and I saw they have the Doom anthology there with it comes with the little BFG light up and a steelbook. I was like, oh, that looks sick. So it comes with like CDs for all the games. And I read the fine print. It was like, steelbook contains a digital card to download the game's Bethesda or account necessary. I was like,
yeah,
because like I was about to buy it. I was about to be like, steelbook with the games and a little light up BFG. Hell yeah, $60. It was on sale. I was like, let's go. And then I read the fine print and I was like, let's not. I was like, what's in the case?
Let's not go.
Hopes and dreams.
What's in the
Hopes
box?
and dreams.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Like, what is this? Yeah. It's like that Baki fucking clip where Yujiro's making food out of air, with
they're facing each other.
It's like my fiance bought me the Doomslayer collection, which I already had all of them because of the BFG edition, and the only game that comes in this is Doom 2016. Everything else is all digital. So like, it's not even on the disc, it's all a code.
Sign of the times.
Especially the old Doom games, man. They take up, like, you can put them on floppies. Like, what's the best? Put them on a USB. It's like, so like we're doing physicals, and stuff. We're getting to that now. We did the limited runs got their problems. So we did the Rise of the Triad lunchboxes. And those, those shipped. You should have them by now if you've ordered one. They came a few weeks ago to most people, and that had the game on a USB. Like, that's not that fucking hard, and then a bunch of others, and the soundtrack came on 2 CDs. Wowie! Like, how, like, it's not that hard. It's not super expensive either. So I mean, maybe now with tariffs, I don't know how like manufacturing is going to be. I'll have to build our. We're
gonna have to fight hard for physical copy stuff, just for physical stuff in general.
It was already really niche, man. That's why you have these companies like Limited Run and Lost in Cult and stuff like that doing stuff, and like they're probably going to get hit super hard because their margins were already like razor thin on that stuff. They were using Chinese factory stuff.
Some of them do a little bit of like their own game development and publishing, I think, to just kind of like help with recouping costs.
The physical
but
stuff,
it's not enough.
It's like, because you can get, they use Chinese factories to get stuff made, and like it, it's the quality differs depending on who you work with over there. And I've known companies that have their own factory in China. Like, you spin one up, China's very big and there's a lot of people there. So I think we'll see what happens. Like, it ain't my business, but we'll see how it goes. But like, we're starting to like try to do our own physicals, and like, because we want to make trapezoid boxes, like IDOS used to do for Gloomwood, and like we're doing a Dusk physical, we're with soap, and
I would buy one of those.
Everything we put on the New Blood store, like the merch stores, and we sell a lot of merch now, is like shit that we want ourselves. It's not like we hate money, which is like, it's not like we're just making shit like, oh, this will sell a ton. It's like all the stuff that we make is shit that I have in my house. Like, like this little fucking guy. So to answer, sorry, my dog was gonna eat Gabriel. So to answer your question, it sucks. Like, when you buy a thing, you should own the thing. The end.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree.
Yeah, so rapid fire round. Yeah, what was it? 5 minutes, 5 questions. So number 1, have you ever seen a movie that you thought was better than the book?
Yeah, Clockwork Orange.
Now I'm gonna read that book. Thanks for that.
What's your opinion on social media?
Sucks.
Fair enough.
It's a necessary evil if you run a business.
Yeah.
What's your
It used to be
story
fun.
about breaking the law?
I plead the 5th.
Yeah, I
Statute of limitations isn't up
Breaking
yet.
the law. The last time I saw a priest, he played it.
Yeah. Well. When you want to escape from everyone, where do you go?
My couch, my garage. How about that?
Plop right back in the place.
Garage getaway.
Yeah, another feeling.
Why does everyone hate Dwayne Johnson in the WWE now? Not a
I
question.
didn't hear that. I didn't. You cut out.
I said, why does everyone hate Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, in the
Because
WWE now?
he's a jabroni. He's a politicking corporate jabroni. Final boss, my ass.
Hell yeah.
Remember when he made stuff that was
Yeah,
supposed to
he's
make the
no
run
Big
down
John.
and he just didn't anymore?
He's no Big John. He's no Big Match John Cena.
That's true.
Oh my god. Yeah. I
like
had
God
to
gave us
throw
Dave
in a
Bautista.
wrestling related question. So,
I'm going to
Is that
WrestleMania in 2 weeks. I'm going to Vegas in 2 weeks. I will
Seriously?
be at WrestleMania in
Oh my
the
God.
200 section. I'm going Holschult, my buddy Aaron, the other co-founder New Blood, and
Yeah.
Christian, the 4 New Blood boys. We're going to
Andrew-
Mania.
Andrew's another person I want on this podcast as well because we want to.
He's
We
super
were
busy
talking-
all the fucking time.
I can imagine. Yeah. He should have got Doom the Dark Ages. By the way, I believe that in the
He
core of my
was the
soul.
one-
That
I mean, I'm sure he could. I mean, he can't really say much about that. But the long and
Of
the
course.
short of it is the timing didn't work out. Obviously,
Oh,
they,
pity.
they wanted him to, but he was
Yeah.
busy working on the Iron Lung movie.
Yeah.
So he didn't. It just the timing. Just he didn't have time. Plus, like the pressure and everything. Like so when he did Ancient Gods. Like everybody, he got an equal amount of this is sick, you're the best, you're the man, and a bunch of like, oh, you're not Mick Gordon, kill yourself, So like the pressure to do a whole new game was like it's almost like yeah, you want to be the guy, but like nobody wants that shit. Like it's impossible shoes to fill. Like obviously he would have done a killer job. And I'm sure he would have nailed it, but I mean, from the long and the short of it is just the timing didn't line
Yeah.
up for him to be able to.
Hopefully
do it.
he can come back and do some more DLC then, and at least be a part of the project in that way.
He's basically like he basically works it in at this point. He's there like all the time. He's close buddies with Marty and Hugo, and he did obviously they made IDKFA official and stuff. So like I would not be surprised to see Andrew doing more Doom stuff in the future. But yeah, Dark Ages it all looks really sick, and I assume at some point you'll ask me about Dark Ages. How about that soundtrack?
Honestly, I
It's
thought
man.
I pretty much I really thought that he was going to return into the Dark Ages. Like just after the impact he made on the DLC, I was like, no, it's quite a foregone conclusion. But
No, they
it is very
definitely wanted. They
unfortunate.
definitely wanted him
Yeah.
to, but like and if he comes on, he'll tell you just like the timing didn't line up. We were like, and I actually know it was
Legend.
a bunch of people. They were like, we could use blah blah blah. And I think what happened is Microsoft just came in, and we're like, listen, we've got this studio that we use to do most of our games. We're sure they'll do like a fine job. And like it's fine. It's like they're real people playing real instruments, but honestly, it kind of sounds like they fed a bunch of mixed shit into fucking AI, and like it's like, hey, here we go. It's like we fed a bunch of the Doom music into a thing, and like I don't want to talk.
I'm pretty
shit because
excited
they're-
for
the
Dark Ages, but I'm actually a
Yeah.
bit more excited for Painkiller, if I'm going to be honest.
It looks okay.
That was a surprise.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been co-op. Should have been single player, in my opinion.
Yeah, when I saw
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
was
it
like-
is single player though. I mean, it is single
No.
player. It's
Well,
also
it's-
co-op, but it is.
Yeah, I
single
think it's like co-op with like bots that you can.
Yeah, I think
single player
there
with
are
bots to help you. I was like, I just want to play
bot
regular.
companions.
ass game.
Yeah,
It's like as soon as I see, it's like with the cease and desists from software game. It's like as soon as they announced that, we were like, hell yeah, Bloodborne 2. And then they're like, it's kind of like a 8-person battle royale thing, and we were like,
yeah.
Like I was immediately like,
yeah. I'm not really surprised by that though, because of like Elden Ring, Night Rain is a multiplayer focused game.
Yeah, you've seen the quotes like Miyazaki's been playing Tarkov. Tarkov has done irreparable fucking damage to the game industry. Everything's
it's changed his mentality. He's like, no, it's got to be multiplayer.
Everything needs to be a fucking, what do they call them? Extraction shooter. And like it's cool. It's just I just like regular ass games, but I'm old. I get it. I'm not the target audience for these games.
Hey, I mean, Painkiller. So Painkiller looks fun. I'm not surprised that the co-op aspect is there. I mean, as long as it's playable single player, I'm totally down with it. But I'm not surprised because like they've been making a lot of co-op games.
I was never a huge Painkiller fan. Like I never really vibed with the original. You know, it was just not it wasn't one of my games. But it's cool to see it come back. I've known about that for a while. I remember talking to some Saber guys last year, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna relaunch. We're gonna do a Painkiller reboot and do it under the 3D Realms brand and kind of treat that as like a relaunch of thing." I'm like, "How many times are y'all gonna relaunch 3D Realms into each other?"
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Also, we were talking about physical, so I wanted to show this to Dave. So I grabbed my physical Adamfall.
Nice.
So.
Adamfall was great. Did you finish it? That's my favorite game of the year so far.
Yes, same. I finished it this morning, actually. Yeah, I've gotten a couple endings. It's fantastic.
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same, you know. Like it does that like Deus Ex thing where like run to which side of the map you want to get the ending for. So I think I did like 4 out of 6 endings. You can't really lock yourself out of too many. It was really good. I think it was a fucking home run for Rebellion. Like the fact that they did that instead of they're like, hey,
it's actually their most sold and most played game in the last 30 years.
I mean, the Sniper Elite games, they can make those forever, right? Everybody loves slow-mo.
I love those games. I love them.
Fucking slow-mo will never get old, right?
Yeah.
But,
Rebellion's like half an hour down the road from me, and I always
they're probably in your backyard. You have to play. Anybody from the UK like has to play Adamfall, because like Eurogamer's been fucking posting videos about it every day for the last year because it's the most British game ever.
Yeah.
But it's a lot for those watching, and they're like, "Oh, what is it like Fallout?" It's way more like Stalker. It's basically, you know, it's like 90% Stalker, 10% Fallout 4. But it's really, I really liked it. I was really surprised.
I think
like,
Fallout New Vegas was a big inspiration. I think that comes from like the ability to kill everybody.
You could, and it's like, well, it's funny because they have, you know, like the guy on the phone, kind of like a failsafe, because like if you kill everybody in the game, you can still finish the game. Adamfall really, I wasn't super surprised by how much I liked it, but I was surprised the fact that like I blew through it in a whole weekend. You could do the 100% in less than 20 hours, and I love that. As a 40-year-old man, if you tell me your game 60 to 80 hours, I'm like, nope. Yeah. Far Cry 5? Hell yeah. Far Cry 6? Hell no.
It ended up taking me about 21 hours, just taking my time doing like just a lot of stuff.
Great,
but
man. If I can beat a game in a weekend, I'm so there, man. Like Fallout 1 was 20 hours long, and that's why I replay Fallout 1 every few years. And every time I try to get back into Fallout 2, and I remember that it's like 40 hours of bullshit and 20 hours of actual content. That's why I stick with Fallout 1, Baldur's Gate 1. A lot of times those.
I don't know how much you played of like the Outer Worlds, but you know, because I liked how that one was like a pretty.
I should love the Outer Worlds. I should. I am the target market for that. It's like, do you like Obsidian games and you like Fallout? Do you like Futurama? But it just was not. Was not hit. Like, listen, there's a million video essays about why the Outer Worlds was not great. But Avowed, I'm loving Avowed. I'm like more than halfway through Avowed. Avowed is good. It's not. It's good at the things you wouldn't expect it to be at. Like the combat's fucking sick, and it's beautiful and it runs really well. But the narrative and the writing is not great. It's like Obsidian. It's supposed to be. I thought this was Obsidian makes jank ass games with really good narrative and writing, so it's kind of flipped. But like, you can't have it all. The Outer Worlds was fine. I tried like 3 times to get into that world.
Yeah,
I mean, I have some varying opinions on that, but yeah,
I had trouble with it the first time.
I like Avowed too,
better the second time recently, but yeah, it's definitely didn't hit the first time.
Worlds, we'll see. Outer Worlds 2, you know, I know some people working on it, and that's, you know, the development's getting there. You know, they've had some issues.
Yeah.
Gonzalez is back. at Obsidian, which is good news. He was the key guy behind New Vegas. So the fact that he's gone back to Obsidian means, I don't know, Fergus either offered him a shit ton of money, or I think he was working on he went to go work on the Sony game, the one with the bow girl,
Horizon Zero
Horizon.
Dawn?
Horizon. Yeah, he was on that team. So I assume he got super burnt out working on Sony game, and then and he went back to Obsidian. So either they're inserting him into Outer Worlds 2, or everybody's speculating.
I mean, he's a great writer, so he actually did even more writing than Chris Avalon did for Fallout New Vegas.
It's funny because everybody, it's funny. Well, Chris is always, for his whole career, has been given credit for stuff he didn't do.
Right.
People are like, yeah, you wrote all the Fallout games and all of it. He's like, I didn't even work on Fallout 1, bro.
I wasn't even there.
Guys. Chris's main contribution to New Vegas, I mean, he did write a lot of stuff on New Vegas. He wrote all the DLC, by himself. Like the Old World Blues and stuff. He did all that, but the main driver for the main game was Gonzalez. He was
more like the support as the main game. He only did so much or whatever.
So and Josh is still there. Obviously, Josh really wants to do Pillars 3. I used to hang out at Obsidian a lot around there because I lived an hour south of Irvine, so I would go and hang out with those dudes and eat in their cafeteria.
Josh did Pentiment. I don't know if you played Pentiment, but that was a really well-written game.
I was having trouble getting into Pentiment. I played it, and I think something about it really annoyed me. I think it was the way the text went on screen. It had a really annoying sound. I was like, this is pissing me off, and I turned it off. But yeah, Josh really wants to do Pillars 3. I would really like Pillars 3. That we're in a post Baldur's Gate 3 world. Then we have proven that people are not stupid. They don't want dumbed down RPGs. They will. You can sell 50 million copies of a deep ass CRPG that will take you fucking months to beat. I think that means that we can do this, and Microsoft should fund a Pillars 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wasteland 2, Wasteland 3, and stuff like that were pretty,
I'm in Wasteland 2. I'm an NPC in that game. And I love 3. 3 was great. Nobody talks about Wasteland 3. It's funny, in Exile, nobody talks, they just kind of quietly, hang out, far
Who are you in Wasteland 2?
I'm an NPC. It's just me. I show up in a random encounter, and I'll sell you. You can Google it, and I'll sell you stuff. And it's like, Dave Oshry. And I voiced it too.
That's funny.
Like Dave Oshry and his Gunners or whatever, because I was working at Gunners.
Yeah, I've spent stupid amount of time in that game.
In Exile's working on that Bioshock looking thing that nobody really asked for.
Yeah, Clockwork Revolution. And here's a funny little anecdote on that is they have another studio that Microsoft picked up. I forget their name, but they're all Volition developers. The entire studio. Yeah. And they're the co-developers of Clockwork Revolution. So that's an interesting thing to know.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We haven't seen anything from that in a while or at all. What happened to Judas?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a Bioshock-esque RPG kind of game.
Wasn't Ken Levine
and
coming
Judas,
out with
I don't know.
What the fuck happened to that? It was everywhere. And then
I thought it was coming out this year, and then
maybe I don't know. Maybe it'll probably be at Summer Games Fest. Either that or Ken Levine pulled a Ken Levine.
I was about to say they probably redid the entire game. He's
like 10 years. Fuck it, I'm out.
Trailer sucked. Redo it.
Yeah. So FPS Aesthetics asks, "What's your dream project that you would hope to do someday?" I didn't know.
The New Blood CRPG. I tease it every once in a while. The Fallout style thing that we're working on. I mean, every once in a while we do teasers of it. People ask me about it all the time. It's a million years off. At one point, Chris was going to write it with me, a million years ago. So that's the dream project, and it might at this point, because I'm looking forward to retirement more than anything. It might be like a post New Blood project, because right now we've got Adam. He's working on it full time as the programmer. And Alexander, obviously the artist, when he's not working on his Fallout Bakersfield mod, he just does tons and tons of art. He's the great. Nobody can do that style, that Fallout 1 and 2 style like Alexander. For those of you who know him, have read 888 Guns, if you've seen his art station, you've seen his videos, the first person Fallout 2 ending stuff, Like you've seen his art. If you've seen Isometric New Vegas, like you've seen like that mock-up, you know, that's him. He's the guy. So that's still the dream project. You know, because people always assume my first love is boomer shooters, but it's actually CRPGs. You know, Fallout 1, Baldur's Gate, that kind of stuff. So that's still the dream project.
Yeah, we got Jim, who's actually the developer of the BioCrisis, kind of like that.
Yeah, Jim, love Jim. Yeah, fucking by Return to the Lab, dude. I've talked about publishing that, man. I was like, listen, I would love to work. I love doing fun shit. So I've told Jim, I was like, if we can ship it with our own New Blood branded light guns in a physical edition,
I'd buy it.
It comes with like, because you can get those Sinden light guns and shit like that, and they have to be the ones that kick back, like the proper ass one. I would totally do a BioCrisis. I would totally work on BioCrisis. BioCrisis 2 looks sick. Shout out Jim. Yeah, BioCrisis 2 I'm surprised it's not out yet. That's the thing. Like, I would love to work on everybody's games with them. I just don't have the time. You know, it's not like a resource thing. It's a hours in the day thing. It's like, oh, that's right. I have to finish like Ultrakill and Gloomwood and like our actual game. I can't like go and work on everybody's games. Maybe once I'm retired, I'll like do some shit like that.
When you're in your War Inspector
era, game dev floater,
just kind of. So, Jim is wanting to know.
Yeah, no question. Sorry, Jim.
Like the DVD pop-ups that keep coming up. Okay, so he's asks or states and then asks, New Blood is making a lot of different games, from FPS to retro exorcism, which I guess he means faith, to Fallout likes. What type of games do you want to explore next?
I mean, we're already doing exploring next. You know, I'm not like a person that wants to like, cause like I'll never make like a 4X strategy game or something like that, cause I don't even know how to wrap my head around making a game like that, nor do I care. The stuff that we do is kind of like we started with the retro shooters, then kind of expanded to stealth, immersive sims, and then, you know, doing like the retro horror stuff, and then the CRPG. We've talked about doing a car combat game. You know, and like a dating sim and stuff like that. But like, it's just kind of variations on the same themes. It's not really like, there's not no wild departures, you know, like we're not going to do like, you know, you're not going to see us doing like a Command and Conquer style game or like a flight sim.
No VR dating sims.
Something.
Yeah.
Like if we wanted to make money, we just do like a, you know, co-op survival crafting game. Those are literally free money. You know, it's so, you know, what's next is just doing what we're doing. To be honest, like once we get this next slate of games out, including our top-down shooter, which, you know, I don't talk about too much, but we've shown that off for a few years.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like, I'm looking forward to retiring. I'm going to be, you know, by the time, you know, our games are out, I'll be, you know, closing on 45, 46. I'm trying to be retired by 50. So after
that's exactly my plan as well. 50.
Yeah, it'll be up to I have no plans to sell New Blood or fucking, you know, hand it over to anybody else. I'll just shut it down, put a little pin in it and be like, thanks, that was a fun 20 years.
Yeah, speaking of the type of games that New Blood do, then that Space Pirate via Blue Sky is asking, how do you choose which games that you want to publish as part of New Blood?
Yeah, so I mean, we're not really a publisher anymore as much as like a full-on studio. We're like 40 people at this point, and we make everything ourselves. I mean, there are exceptions, like, you know, like Tenebrous Somnia. Like, I've known those guys for years. I've known Andres and Tobias for years, you know, since they were working on lots of other stuff. And like, it just came about where I was like, man, this is too cool to pass up.
Yeah,
like this
is some cool shit.
And the fact that Faith was like their main inspiration, it felt like a really cool. And also, like, I think in like trilogies now, I'm like, cool, we got a shooter trilogy, we've got a stealth trilogy now with Blood West. I'm like, fuck it, we can have a horror trilogy, you know, because it's, you know, really good for merchandising and stuff. So like, there's always exceptions with stuff like Tenebrous Somnia, but for the most part, it's just been like people. I've never gone out and looked for games. Like, they come to us, you know. So like with Ultrakill, like Hakita like emailed me for 2 years asking me to work on his game, and I was like, and then I finally played it, and I was like, oh shit. You know, so, and like with stuff like Gloomwood, like Dylan was helping on Dusk, you know, David brought Dylan in to help with the ending of Dusk, and he was like, by the way, do you want to work on my game called Gloomwood? And he pitched it to me. I was like, yo, this is great, this is like Thief, yes, let's do this. Like with a Medieval, those guys have been working at Interceptor Slipgate on Bombshell and whatever, and then they just came to me and they were like, "Hey, we're working on the Heretic style thing. Do you want to work on this with us?" And that was a medieval, So it's just been like friends kind of coming and showing me their ideas and then sticking around. And that's just kind of how, like, New Blood's never really had like a game plan, or like we don't accept pitches, even though I get them every single day. I don't know where people are getting our email from. But like, yeah, we've never been like a traditional publisher, even though we were trying to be like a publisher for a while. Now we're like a full-on studio that just kind of, we do our own porting, our own publishing, our own QA, our own development. So we're just a full-on studio at this point. But in terms
great
of
things come from humble beginnings.
Yeah, in terms of like what we look for, it's like I don't look for anything, just dope shit. Like, there's a thing that I like to say, where it's like, a New Blood game is a New Blood game because it only could have ever been a New Blood. Like, if you see one of our games, you're like, no, that could not have been anything but a New Blood game.
So did you become a publisher for Blood West?
Huh? Yeah, so like Blood West was interesting because like it was out already. It was very out from Hyperstrange, and we liked it. And it's funny because people just assume it was always a New Blood game now because we good at that market. But people there was people that thought like it was a New Blood game even before. And I've been friends with Millie and the Hyperstrange dudes for a long time. And he kind of hit me up because he was like, "Hey, we're kind of in a tight spot. We're looking for funding for our next thing. Would you be like?" And he's like, "But I have a crazy idea." He's like, "Do you want to like become the publisher of Blood West and like buy like half of it?" And I was like, "How much? What you like? Let's make a deal." And it was like, "Yes, sure, let's do it." And like I love the idea. First of all, like, and he's like, "Oh," and he's like, "By the way, we have a DLC that's like pretty much ready to go." And I was like, "Oh, Dead Man's Promise." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was like, it was cool because it immediately allowed us to have a stealth trilogy. It paired really well with the Gloomwood and Fallen Aces. It's the kind of thing like, if you New Blood, I got data from, I don't know if you read the Game Discover newsletter, gamediscover.co by Simon. Really great newsletter if you love Steam data and all that shit. And he's like, I pulled the data on your games, and it's really weird because most companies, don't have it. Like the average person that owns one of your games owns like 4 of your games, and that's like unheard of. I'm like, well, yeah, like if you own one New Blood game, you probably fucking own
I need the whole collection.
It also helps that they're affordable.
Well, because you're dog. Well, I don't know if you Faith on Switch too, $90, $1 per pixel. That's on Faith. But yeah, so it's like, because they're all like, if you like one of our games, you're gonna probably like them all, or at least in the trilogies. Like, if you like Blood West, you're gonna like Gloomwood. If you like Gloomwood, you're gonna like Fallen Ace. Like, if you like Dusk, you're gonna like Medieval. If you like the Medieval and Dusk, you're probably gonna like Ultra Guild. If you like Faith, you're definitely gonna like Tenebris Somnia. And there's it's that kind of thing where we've always kept it like that. A lot of publishers or whatever, indie publishers, they're the games, it looks like they're just throwing shit at like just whatever popular shit they could try to find at a wall that sticks, and there's no cohesion to it. There's no like, oh, if I like one game from Devolver, I'll like all the games from Devolver. Well, that sure as hell ain't true. Their games are all over the place. I mean, whatever, they're like a multi-billion-dollar corporate fucking publicly traded company now, but like, even back in the day, it's like, oh, I really like Hotline Miami. Will I like all the other games that they publish? It's like, I don't know, they're all over the place. It's like, if I like Hotline Miami, it doesn't mean I'm going to like Talos Principle. I mean, that's a great game, but like very different games. With New Blood, like everything is very
suddenly
much
from serious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll start from. Dude, did you see that? So speaking of data, it's same newsletter. Apparently, Serious Sam 3 is still hard carrying Devolver. Like 10 years later, like it just still tells tons of copies.
Underrated.
Like 99 God bless Sam 3. Sam 4 was super underrated, man. So, and then the
Siberian Mayhem's where it's at.
Siberian Mayhem.
That's great. That's great.
Expansion is the best Serious Sam that has come out ever. Higher fans, kind of.
Hell yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah.
I hope they get them to make more games. 100%.
Well, because the regular guys now like seem like they're fully Talos Principle, and I'm like, Talos Principle is cool, but it's really just not for me. And I'm sure they sell really well because they're puzzle games, Unreal 5, blah blah blah. But like, man, like if they hire the Siberian Mayhem guys to make Sam 5 or whatever, fucking I'm all about it.
Oh, it would be fantastic. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Carmine, Dave asks you, what is your favorite level from New Blood games, and why is it Ratacombs?
Might be the Ratacombs. The Ratacombs is actually a kind of one-to-one recreation of the catacombs from Planescape Torment. And then at the end you fight a rat called One is Many instead of Many is One. So it's a big Torment reference. It's one of my favorite games back in the day. Is it actually Ratacombs? No. It might be Escher Labs from Dusk. It might be all of Gloomwood's basically one giant level. Fallen Aces. It's probably something from Dusk. Yeah, it might be Escher Labs from Dusk. I think Escher Labs was the first time where we really showed people we could really fuck with your head. Even though nowadays by our standards it's kind of simplistic and stuff. Either that or E2M2 from Dusk, or like, surprise, it's a horror game, where you first meet the Wendigo in the dark and stuff that. There's a million levels. Like every level from Dusk is, basically could be its own answer. Probably not E3M9, even though I love that level. That's the big gauntlet at the end, the giant wave-based blue level.
Yeah, that took me so long to do, but I tried.
Jump off the side and make them infight. No. That's the way to beat that level.
I was playing.
Exactly. Every time you jump off the side, you teleport back to the top. Yeah. So the trick is to just make them all infight and then just let them kill each other.
I was doing it with controller, so I couldn't aim for shit. I was just running around. I was doing on my NVIDIA Shield with a controller on GeForce Now, so it was
NVIDIA Shield, nice. Yeah. Just each other. That's the way to do that level. Or E3M7, the flying level. That was really hard to do.
Yeah.
Medieval Tower of Light, E4M2. That whole episode 4 of Medieval, the Sun episode, is the one I had the most input on. So those are my favorite levels. Gloomwood, the Hive's really good. The Gloomwood Hive, if you've caught up, the new Hive is really good. That's some of Dylan's best work. The Gloomwood research update's coming out very soon. What else? Ultra Kill. Ship of Fools and Ultra Kill. Might be one of my favorites. That one just got a big redesign. Some of the stuff from Layer 7's really cool because we finally started doing some really different stuff. Layer 8, which we're going to be showing off for the first time, finally, I think at the PC Gaming Show, is coming along really. That stuff's gonna. I can't tease anything yet because the Ultra Kill fans will fucking go insane. But it's really, it's gonna be a mind fuck basically. Like we had to write some all new systems and code to like make Layer 8. We're kind of running into the same issue where David did with Dusk, where we're like, we are running out of ideas for this fucking video game. We just have to start coming up with like crazy shit. So we've kind of hit that with Ultra Kill. So Hakata, the stuff he's coming up with for Layer 8, it's really cool so far. It's some really cool enemies too.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, but my answer is usually Escher Labs.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, El Mugu of Cult asks, what's your favorite Argentinian food that you tried on your last trip there?
Is that Cult? Is that Cavalt, the game?
Yes, it is. Yeah, he's El Mugu's a guest as well. Yeah. He's been here a couple of times now. Yeah.
Yeah, I try.
Shout out to El Mugu.
There's so many boom shoots now, and I used to be really good at trying to promote them all, but I'm a busy old man now, so now I just leave that to Slim Brodsky, who manages to play so many goddamn shooters. Great, I just watch his videos now. I'm like, wow, there's sure a lot of boomer shooters. There's one the one he just did a video on. I might stream it tomorrow. The Megastructure one. It's called like Metal something. I just downloaded that.
Is it Metal Eden or whatever? Is that what it is?
Metal Garden. Yeah, apparently you can beat it in 2 hours, and I was like, I'm in. That's my type of shit.
Yeah, I feel you though. Anything I hear in like, oh, you can do it 2 hours, maybe 5, 10. I'm like,
that's what David's specialized in. David's like, hey, I make these games now that you can beat in 1 or 2 hours, and they're like $5, and people are like, let's go.
Hell yeah.
Sorry. The question was, sorry, Mr. Kavalt man. I forgot the question. Sorry.
Favorite Argentinian food.
Favorite Argentinian food the last time you visited?
Yeah, so the asados for sure. The asados. Everybody was going off about the empanadas. I'm like, it's an empanada. I've had empanadas before. They're not the focus vertical. Choripan. I was big on the choripans, little baby chorizos and just like in a baguette. I was like, oh, those are good. I had some really good asados. At Augustine's house, for those of you who are familiar with Augustine Cordes, who just released Asylum, finally, after like 15 years, he finally released Asylum. Holy shit, the guy who made Scratches. He had a really good backyard barbecue, and I was eating the choripans there. Yeah, probably just the meat, man. In Argentina, man, they got the meats. I left that country with the meat, for real. Yeah, so to answer the question, probably choripan.
We got Brett Erickson, who's wanting to know, when more Blood West?
When more Blood West? We're coming out with a patch very soon. We just put out, we put out Dead Man's Promise, so we've put a couple patches out for stuff. We've added some stuff. The next patch is adding a bestiary finally, like a codex, so all the notes you get, you can finally like, look at all the things. You could stare at the Annabelle drawing for as long as you want. And then... there were also achievements finally for Dead Man's Promise. Sorry, that took us a while. That'll be the next patch. Steam Deck verifications in the next patch.
Nice.
Finally,
Nice.
It's always the text. It's always the fucking text. Valve comes back, hey, your text is too small. You can't read it on the screen.
Seriously? Okay, that's
I
hilarious.
could read it on my ROG Ally. Steam Deck, but better. It's so funny that people are like, I'm sorry, I can't use the ROG Ally. It's too complicated. And I was like, what do you mean? And that's when I realized that this is the X, by the way, way better than the original one. The battery life is like so much better. Shout out to Stu's. They sent me that one for free. Not an ad, but they did send it to me for free.
Nice.
What was I gonna say? Battery life was better. Blood West, Steam Deck verification. But yeah, and then I realized kids don't know how to use Windows. That's why they're so confused by they only know iPad and Switch and console. So like having to move around on a desktop and a mouse is like a totally alien experience to them. And I was like, oh,
wow.
Why does this PC have controllers?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Steam Deck does make that a bit more accessible
Yeah, because
they set it up like Steam.
It just launches, Steam big picture and stuff. And I'm like, you could do that with the Ally. But literally just setting up Windows and having to like click is like freaks them out, and like let alone having to move files around. I remember like trying to tell people how to mod games. I'm like, yeah, just drop this in that file, and they're like, I don't open the file explorer. What? I might break something. And I'm like, I didn't tell you to go into your fucking System 32 folder. I just told you like open your hard drive. And it's so funny. Like I grew up with DOS and shit. Like I still remember how to use my file directory to open like wolf3d.exe and shit like that. CD / to go back and blah blah blah. All my basic commands. So nowadays kids like not even been able to use a graphical user interface like a mouse. It's too complicated.
Like that commercial ages ago.
Amazing.
They only know tap on screen. It's like it's not. I don't want to be a boomer and be like, oh, it's sad. The kids these days. It's just not what you grow up with. When I grew up, we didn't even have the internet. We had to take classes to learn how to type. Typing was not a thing that you did. People wrote everything by hand. Still, we learned.
I remember those days. Yeah. Yeah, we've got Martin Mercenary. He's asking what your favorite collaboration is you've done for New Blood.
Collaboration. Oh, the last question was more Blood West Wet. I forgot to say. After that, we are adding New Game Plus. I have finally convinced the Hyper Strange guys to add New Game Plus to Blood West. Favorite collaboration. I don't know. The King Gizzard thing was pretty great because I'm a pretty giz head. So getting King Gizzard in Ultra Kill was pretty sweet. Also Health, Johnny and those guys are buddies of mine. Favorite collab, I like doing the music collabs because I love my musics. So I would say let's King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard being an Ultra Kill was
that is such a mouthful and I love it.
If you're not a fan. If you're not a fan of the band and you're an old school rock guy, trust me, check out King Gizzard. There's a reason they got such a crazy big fan base and play like stadiums.
Thanks for that.
They fucking rule. All the good music's coming out of Australia these days.
The last question is from King Jiffy Coates. Yep, that's the whole thing.
Yep,
he's here.
Shout out to Mr. Coates.
Former guest.
What do you look for in regards to putting the New Blood name on it? Or is it just any game that makes your balls tighten?
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. It's like something I get excited about. Something that gets the save data tingling down there.
Nice.
Yeah,
Save data.
It's again, we don't really want to just like put our name on things. Like I've had those offers
Spidey
a lot.
senses.
Like, hey man, we really just want to be a New Blood game. I'm like, man, like a few years ago or 10 years ago, I'd love to do that, but like we're not a publisher, and I don't want to spread ourselves too thin. Like I said, a New Blood game can only ever be a New Blood game because it could have only ever been a New Blood game. It's got to fit, but more importantly, like what I would have used to look for would have been like the game. Like, wow, this game's really cool. I think it'll really fit really well in our portfolio. But now it's like it's the people, that I really want to work with this guy or these people. Like they're really fun to work with. I think they could do other stuff. Like when we brought on Fallen Aces, it wasn't so much that we wanted to work on this cool comic book gangster game. I mean, we did, but it was also we wanted Trey. We wanted Trey to come in and do 2D art for Gloomwood and stuff. And now he does that as well as working on Fallen Aces, and so we've always, it's people more than the games. So I really want to work with cool people. So like when we did Hyper Strange, it's not just like, oh, Blood West is a good addition to our portfolio. It is, and it makes a lot of sense, and people now just assume it was always a New Blood game, which is fine by me. But it's like I've known Millie for a long time, and he's always wanted to work with me and work with us, and we've always gotten along really well. And those guys work super hard. I'm super hands off on Blood West. I'm like, how's the patch going, guys? They're like, yeah, good, testing. It'll be ready for you to test soon. I'm like, sick, done. We have calls like once a week, and in Poland's the opposite from me. So right now it's 10:30 in the morning. In Poland it's 10:30 at night. It's like, cool, like I'll be getting ready to go to bed, and I'll be like, hey Dave, you ready for the meeting? And it's like, oh, that's right, I gotta do a fucking Blood meeting. It's midnight, but it's noon in Poland. That's just it's just kind of that's my life, right? Or like with Tenebrae Somnia, like it wasn't like, oh, this game looks sick, it's got live action cutscenes, I think it'll sell really well. Like obviously that's true, but like I mean, we don't give a shit about sales at this point. Everything we do will do well enough because we're popular and we make good shit and we've got a reputation and we hate money. But it's like I've known Tobias and Andres for like years at this point, and they've always wanted to do something together. And it was kind of like when they started making the game, they kind of always thought about me and New Blood. It's like it could have only ever been a New Blood game. It was like it was ordained, and like also it's like it's an excuse to go hang out in Argentina. It's like when we're doing like all the shit that we do, it's like just an excuse to do fun shit. It's like, why are you doing Faith in Japan? I'm like, because we have to go to Tokyo Game Show. Like we have to go hang out in Japan. Like
also, it feels cool.
It's cool. We have to be big in Japan. They had Faith playable at the fucking main square in Tokyo, like the big cross section.
God damn.
Yeah, really.
24/7 camera. And HappyNet had like a game thing set up on the side, and like you could play Faith there. I'm like, that's so cool. I didn't want to weeb out or anything, but like that's pretty.
That is so cool.
To do shit. Japan is one of those places where it like actually lives up to the reputation. Yeah. Where you go, it's like, oh, fucking soy jacking. It's like it actually is this cool. I don't want to leave. Oh my god, the trains actually do run on time. Holy shit! I mean, I'm from New York City, so like, oh my god, the trains are clean. They run on time. This is fucking nuts. Unbelievable. But it's like, it's what gets the balls thing. Like, it used to, obviously there was a time when we were like, if we don't sell some games, we're not going to be in business. But I always said, like, if we can't do things like our way, like I'd rather not be in business. I don't ever want to fucking sell out. I'm an old school punk rock guy. I won't be a fucking sellout. Well, it's like I could always move back with my mama and sell cars, even at 40. Like I could always go work at a used car lot in Long Island and live in my mom's basement. She'd be more than happy to have me.
There you go.
So nowadays with New Blood, it's like, for the love of the game, we're doing stuff because it's what our players want, what we want to do, what gets the balls tingling, what lets us, go hang out in Argentina, go hang out in Japan, get these new like fan bases or whatever. People, we love like going places and like signing posters for people and taking pictures and whatever. and hanging out with a bunch of sweaty motherfuckers coughing on us and getting COVID and whatever, what happened. I actually haven't had COVID in a while.
Shout out to
we
no
did
COVID.
it. We reached herd immunity or whatever.
Okay, so Raphael Colantonio, of course, for those of you who don't know, guy behind all the arcane games that we've loved for quite a while, Prey, Dishonored, Arx Fatalis, etc., Undo, etc. And he asks, Mr. Dave, what engine was the Gloomwood built in?
Unity.
Yeah, because he was thinking it was intentionally meant to capture the jankiness of the Dark engine, like he was. Yeah, so that was his.
Yeah, most of our games, it's like it's beating Unity or Unreal into submission to make it look and feel old. It's it's a pain in the ass. But we don't want to actually use those old engines for modern games because it makes it very hard to do things like performance and everything. Every once in a while, you'll get one you'll the GZ Doom stuff and build engine, stuff like Ion Fury and shit like that.
Yeah, the Wrath I heard was a nightmare to make.
What?
I heard Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, it was a nightmare to make. In
at the time they were like, yeah, we're doing a Quake engine game. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? You make it in Unity and look and feel like a Quake engine game, but they got it done. But yeah, so the answer is Unity.
Nice. All right, and then for the upcoming guest will be someone from Fulcrum Publishing, which if you don't know who that is or need to be refreshed, they're doing stuff like, I think they published Diluvian Ultra, Forgive Me Father 2, Hyperviolence.
Forgive Me Father.
And that Stygian Outer Gods thing just came out.
Every boomer shooter has been pitched to New Blood at some point.
Yeah, I should say that they haven't confirmed attendance, so it is very likely to be a representative or developer from Fulcrum and Stygian Outer Gods, but they haven't got back finalizing it.
They're doing they do the Lovecraft sale as well on Steam, and we're participating in that. So we're releasing the Gloomwood research update, which will be very cool. The doctor will get to go do his fucking freaky research experiments and transform into different monsters, which will be pretty cool. Getting your Frankenstein on, and we're also doing the Blood West update, and we're also trying to do a Dusk update finally for another SDK update, adding some cool stuff for the Lovecraft sale. And hopefully at some point finish the comic, which is now 400 pages long. Yeah, the Dusk graphic novel is literally 400 pages long. Jacob's just kind of a crazy person. We've just kind of been letting him
will definitely be getting my hands on that. I just recently got into comics over the last
point, I think we want to do like a hardcover.
I was just going to say, do a hardcover, please.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been talking to Lost and Cult about doing it. It's very long. We might try to cut it down. It's just kind of these insane scribbles at this point, but it's very cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm buying one.
So in terms of what Medium was saying for the next one,
ask a question to the Fulcrum guys.
Exactly. Yeah, their game that they're bringing out is Stygian Outer Gods. So it is a Lovecraftian game. So is there anything Lovecraft related that you want to ask them?
I was gonna say, let me think. Okay, which Lovecraftian entity is your favorite, and why? And which one fits the best in your games? We chose ours for the Faceless God, for who's kind of been a presence in all of our games now. If you ever see anything green in our games, it's kind of like we're kind of doing like a New Blood connected universe, and always
theorized about that. Theorized about that.
I got a question about that afterwards. Yeah, I got a question.
And always voiced by Stephen Wade as well. We always have.
Oh my god! Yes, yeah.
The voice, and that indicates that is that entity. Pray that you never meet me in my 1,000 other forms. He's got one in every of our games. Yeah.
In the burning questions round, the initial question wasn't a wrestling question. It was, when is the New Blood connected universe coming out? Because I looked.
We go ahead.
I said I looked at your games and I was like, why don't New Blood do sequels to expand upon the lore? Because all the games are really lore heavy. And then I thought maybe they're making a connected universe instead, and this is how it's all going to tie in.
It is all connected. Yeah, I mean, even if it's not originally, we just add little Easter eggs and stuff. Like even in Faith, there's like the cabin you can get to with a note from Jacob, and like, hey, from cult leader to cult leader, from Gary and Jacob, we're talking. And everything kind of takes place in Lovecraft country, which is kind of like the American Northeast, kind of like that Pennsylvania, Connecticut backwoods, area where, anything could fucking happen out in the woods. So it is very, all that we try to make sure all the games are connected in some way, even if it's just like a little Easter egg or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of anti-sequels in general, just because it's like, if you start with like, we've talked about Dusk 2 like a million times, but like, that's the kind of thing where it's like, oh man, this game was really successful, let's do a sequel to just make it bigger and better, and like, that's like, we hate money, why would we do that? Well, but it's like, if you start with that, where does it end? We have to do a Medieval 2, Gloomwood 2, Fallen Aces, and I'm never gonna retire, I'd rather, and some things like are better, like Blood 2. Like, did we need Blood 2? No. Not really.
Yeah. Just do the cool thing, let the cool thing exist, and then move on to the next one.
Does anyone remember Heretic 2?
No one remembers.
Yeah.
I like Hexen 2. Hexen 2 was actually, is an interesting experiment of a game, and that was a lot of inspiration for Medieval there. But so I'm not anti-sequels, but I kind of am. I'd rather just do new stuff in the same, like, I love doing spin-off. Like, we've done a couple of Dusk spin-offs. We're working on a couple of more Dusk spin-offs. It's fun to do stuff like that. I'd rather do like Dusk 82 on Game Boy Color. Like, that to me, like, sell Game Boy cartridges is like, again, like, we do stuff that's fun and interesting that will like not make us any money just because it's cool. Like, I'd rather go to a Comic-Con and sell Dusk Game Boy cartridges than make like Dusk 2 and have to do like giant big trailers and try to be at like Summer Games Fest and do interviews with like fucking IGN or whatever. Like, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to do our fun, cool shit and go hang out in Japan.
Speaking of games that could be on a Game Boy Color or something like it, how did you get involved with Faith? That's a pretty unusual departure from the.
That was another one. That was another.
3D.
David was like, "Hey, you want to work with my friend?" And I was like, "Yeah, have you met Erdorf?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "You know Faith?" I'm like, "Yeah, everybody knows Faith. Everybody knows Mortis. Everybody is, big popular. And it's like the indie. It's like the proto indie horror game, right?"
Yeah.
Like I had seen videos, obviously, of people playing it, like Markiplier and stuff, but I had never actually played it myself. And then I actually finally played it myself, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is actually really good." I got to like chapter 2, and there's that one moment in chapter 2 where the note starts changing, and then the fucking controller starts vibrating, and I was playing in the dark room, and I was like, "What?" And like the rotoscope cutscenes, and obviously that shit's really affecting. So I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do this." And Faith was a game where I was like, we're gonna sell more merchandise than we sell copies of the game, because like a lot of indie horror games, people just watch playthroughs on YouTube or whatever. But like Faith did super well, and Erdorf's obviously. And then it became kind of serendipitous because, when we got to Tenebrous Somnia, it was like, I will only do this if Erdorf wants to be executive producer. Erdorf was also fluent in Spanish because he was a missionary and lived in Argentina for 2 years. So it was kind of just really made sense. So yeah, it was another Szymanski thing. He was like, "Hey, you want to talk to this guy?" And I was like, "Sure." It was just New Blood is basically a bunch of David Szymanski and friends hanging out.
I know Faith is, I don't know how recently it is, but it's getting a movie made. Are y'all
it's
fairly...
getting a movie adaptation. Yeah, I think
Really?
Erdorf did it. It's not us. It's Erdorf did a deal with the guy who was doing like the George A. Romero biopic, who was like super keen to do it. I don't know much about it. I hope it's good. Obviously, if it's good, we'll promote it super heavily and be like, "Wow!" If it's bad, we'll pretend we had nothing to do with it. I'm sure it'll be cool. I obviously I had ideas that I wanted to do for a Faith movie, and Andres, who's doing Tenebrous Somnia, he really wanted to. He would have loved to do a Faith movie, but it's Faith is a big universe. It's it's cool, and we've been talking. We've had people have reached out from like TV and movies and stuff recently about our IPs and stuff, doing like,
oh my god,
Fallen
I would
Aces, doing like a Fallen Aces cartoon or a Ultra Kill anime or shit like
That'd be
that.
cool.
So I've been
I'd
having those
love to see
conversations.
live action and medieval. My god, I bet that would
Yeah,
be
I've
amazing.
I've got the helmet and the gloves right here. Hang on.
Holy shit! Really? That's amazing.
We're getting the low budget home version, are we?
No, dig it. I literally bought a shirt now while we were talking because I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's what I
Oh
got.
wow!
Right here.
10 out of
We can do
10.
a live action.
Yeah, that's
Medieval.
brilliant. That's
Pretty good.
brilliant.
And I've got the axe as well.
Shit.
Where's my axe? There's a black line.
I'm using this section for the promo.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
But I've got the axe of the black lap. We've
Look
got the
at that!
gloves. Yeah.
Look at that axe! Holy shit!
Oh,
That is it. Eh?
This was
I
made
still need
by
to play a
Volcom.
medieval. I haven't played it.
You should
my
really
God,
play it. It's
you're-
such a
you're
you're
good
some
missing
planets.
out. It's
I thought about
Yeah.
I just thought about just getting the VR version.
Oh, dude!
Oh.
If you got VR, do it.
If you
It's so good.
yeah.
That
And
looks
it's,
good.
yeah, so all this stuff I forget we had this made because at some point I wanted to do like a music video for one of the editions of a medieval, but it took them so long to make this stuff that now it just kind of sits in my house.
Oh wow, that's so unfortunate. That is so
Ugh.
sick. You know what? That reminds me now. You've just thought of something. In my next house, I need a place to put an axe.
Yeah.
Maybe that one in specific.
On the wall.
Well,
That
this
is
is
so
this
cool,
is
yeah.
why I have my bows in the shed because I can't fit my bows up here because they
Man.
essentially they keep falling down.
That was
Yeah.
cool, Dave. That was very cool,
No,
man.
that
Yeah,
was so funny.
And I've wanted to make a Dusk movie forever, but I won't do it without getting Nick Cage as Jago. That's my one. My one.
That's fair.
No,
Hey,
Yeah, I can see it.
I've got the axe from Mandy in my garage.
all you gotta do is just get a hold of his agent, and there's almost a guarantee that he'd say yes.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah,
do fucking anything for $1 million apparently.
I know, yeah. Robert De Niro as well. I bet you could get him because he does a movie a month nowadays. He won't
Yeah,
turn
well, I think
anything.
he's still having kids, so I guess he's got a. No, that was Pacino who's still having kids.
It was
at like
Pacino,
80, right?
yeah.
Hooah!
Yeah.
You
So,
don't need Intruder.
Dave, final question then for the episode.
Final question.
Just how big is Gloomwood actually going to be?
Very big. So we've actually scaled it back a bit. I mean, we're about 50% done with it now. And then after the research update will be the bank in Hightown. And then after that, it'll be about 60% done. After that is the Sootworks, which is where like the corpse duster is going to be, and the hunchback who sells you body parts and stuff like that. And that'll be like the big, really big, dirty, rundown, outdoor, like, Victorian, like plague-ridden, section of the city. You can kind
I'm
of see
kind of
like
waiting
the big
for like
smoke.
the final product to get back in because
It'll still
I
be a
got
while.
it. I got it when it first came out, and I haven't returned to any of the updates. I feel like I really need to.
It's a lot.
But,
Well, I mean, it's
like I put like 7 hours into the game, like at the very
Nice.
beginning, like when it was just
Yeah.
base game, and everybody
Yeah.
else was like, "Oh, it's like 2 hours long," and I'm like, "Oh,
over 2 hours. Like, now it's basically halfway done. But like the way I play early access games that I like to recommend people do is like, if you see something you think is cool, buy it, try it out, and be like, okay, this is pretty cool. Uninstall it, and then wait for it to be finished. Like
There
I
you
think.
go.
I love Fallen Aces. I'm excited for
Yeah,
that
the
too."
kind of people that like, our episodic games are really easy to play in early access because they're like complete. Like,
Yeah.
we updated a bit, but like Fallen Aces episode 1 is episode 1. Like if you play it and then come back for episode 2, you don't have to go back. You could just keep playing it. Like it was the same thing with Dusk. Like, we'll update it and they'll make it better, but it's still complete, right? It's a complete story. With Gloomwood, we're kind of adding to the world. But then, so after the Sootworks, with the big smoky smokestack towers, that'll be the Sootworks. And then, after that, we're kind of get to the ending. Go fight the Countess in her giant, big, thief-style castle level. That's going to be really fun to build. So, Gloomwood's getting there. I mean, I am currently we're probably full release May 1.0, 2027 at this point. So probably another year or two out, which isn't that bad. That's like a 5-year early access. That's not super bad. Ultra Kill will probably.
That's actually a reasonable amount of time for a full.
Yeah, I
full
mean,
awesome
listen,
game.
and also we don't give a shit. We make our games until they're done. It's whatever.
Yeah.
If you think they take too long, I don't know. Play something else. And it's funny,
just like
nobody
Blizzard used to do.
Nobody remembers your games are early access once they're out. People forget that Dusk was early access. People forget that a Medieval was early access. They're like, oh shit, that's right. Yeah, Dusk was in early access for a year. It was supposed to be. You could watch our old trailers. It's 2017. It didn't come out until December 2018.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 was in early access for 7 years, something like
very long
that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, Subnautica was in early access for almost 8 years. And these are some of the greatest games of all time. And the reason they're so good is because they were in early access for so long, getting that constant feedback and testing loop. Because when you just release, people are like, oh, I hate early access games. I wish they would just be finished. I'm like, yeah, but without that feedback from people telling you what they like and don't like, and what's good and what's not good, and how performance is and everything, you're kind of just rolling the dice on your release. If you do early access the right way, by the time your game comes out, there shouldn't be any questions about what if people are going to like it or if it's good. What they want already. You can see if, Ultra Kill, when Ultra Kill comes out, people will be, is this game good? I don't know, man. It's got 99%, 500,000 reviews. It must be shit. They're all
paid actors, all of them.
It's not 100, it's only 99.
Yeah, that 1%. Those are the real game.
Yeah. So you want him to ask a question for Alex?
Exactly.
Just in case he's the next
as a
guest.
backup question.
Okay. Yeah. So Alex Hutchinson's studio co-founder of Typhoon Studios and now Raccoon Logic, who developed Journey to Savage Planet and now Revenge of the Savage Planet.
Okay. I have not played those.
Ubisoft. Far
I know
Cry,
the games. I know. I've seen them.
So their game came out back in 20. I don't want to get that wrong. They were 2019. Rough estimate.
Really
it was
good game.
It was one of those early games when they started teaming up with indie and AA stuff to get stuff on Game Pass, and so they were on Game Pass for a while. And at the time, it was I remember seeing it and going oh, it kind of looks like No Man's Sky or something. And then I played it, and then now I own 3 copies of it.
Yeah.
I haven't played it, but I don't know anything about it. But I will ask the question.
If you like Metroid Prime, play it.
Why is the planet so savage? Who done savage the planet?
And if it's so savage, why are you journeying there?
Actually,
Nice.
I guarantee there'll be a good answer for that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Appreciate that, Dave.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching the Quad Damage Podcast and joining us in this discussion, talking with Dave Oshry.
Hey.
Hi.
He's posing. So, of course, you can find... Where can we find Dave Oshry and New Blood and everything?
Yeah, just at Dave Oshry, at New Blood. Newbloodstore.com, all of our dumb URLs. I kind of gave up on buying shitty URLs. I was like, we still own a ton of them, but we still got
Shadow Warrior 3.
Waste out money, Shadow Warrior fucking 3, Hexen 3, notfortnite.com, thiefwithguns.com, notbloodborne.com. Man, we got so many. fallenasses.com, that's a good one for the fallen aces.
I did not know about that one.
Yeah, fallenasses.com.
Oh, that's funny.
VoodooBitch.com for Dead Man's Problems. Shout out to Dead Island.
That's good. Yeah. Shout out to Dead Island.
Yeah, we got a bunch. Dead Island 2, I got to get back to that. I was having fun with that. It finally came out after a year in Epic Game Store hell. It finally came out on Steam.
Yeah.
I gotta play that.
Yeah.
That's the usual. Just at Dave Oshry, at New Blood. Fucking, you know how to use Google. Actually, Google AI will probably tell you to go to Dexter New Blood or the Dusk Bloods or something like that. We fucked Google. Good job, everyone.
Mission accomplished.
All right, so where can we find Medium? Old Midnight Medium.
Yes. You can find me at Midnight Medium. Just kidding. Yes. No. Yes. It's now at Midnight Medium on YouTube. Sorry, I was having to. You didn't see the brain pattern up there, but at Midnight Medium on YouTube, and a Midnight Medium on the Twixter.
All right, and Robert. Or I guess we'll do you last, Robert. Never mind, because you want to do the quad damage.